just want to write. That's at this point. That's kind of what I've spent the last year figuring out, that as long as I can write something, the world makes sense to me. Just when I'm not, or when I'm looking at social media, it just kind of falls to pieces again.
Welcome back to the Comics Cube, everyone. We are back with Torunn Grønbekk.
That was amazing.
Yes, I got it.
Yes. Remind me, can I swear?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that was fucking amazing.
awesome. We last spoke a few months ago. King in Black was still going on, Return of the Valkyries, and since we last spoke, we have you have gotten to the Mighty Valkyries, and you had an announcement about Warhammer 40K.
Yes.
So since we last spoke, the new Valkyrie has been given a name, Runa. What are the
Yeah.
differences between Jane Foster and Runa?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, well,
Or what
they
do you love
are.
writing about them?
Oh yeah, I can get into that. I think with Jane, I think one of the reasons that Jane is such a character that resonates so much with so many people and so many different people, and that she means so much. It's kind of her heart and her warmth and her just and the combined with her not kind of giving any fucks. She just kind of goes for it. It's lovely combination of understanding um and capability, I suppose. That at least one of the reasons that I love her and I love writing her. um and Runa is more, she is a little angrier, a little less resolved in a lot of ways. And she's kind of still trying to um, regain some love and understanding for why life is where she wants to be after having. I'm trying to remember where we are at the moment, not
We're on
give
number
anything
3.
away. We're on number 3. Yeah, sure. And trying to get back to motivation to be either a Valkyrie or something else. Just trying to kind of figure out where life is going to take her now. While Jane is obviously, she's doing, she's chosen this life in a lot of ways, but she's still trying to figure it out, how to balance everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes for, at least for me, I think it's a great, because you have like the two women who are quite different, um, but they both have really interesting and relevant problems to deal with that I really enjoy. So I find myself kind of resonating. They both resonate to me in different ways. Um, and though like Runa is, um, she's quippier and a little harder around the edges, but that makes it kind of more interesting as well when we get into um her emotions. So I love writing them both. I think it's such an interesting combination.
Is Runa more, I don't know, cathartic to write?
Well, I learn more from Jane.
Yeah.
And that is one of those things that I've by writing Jane, I think I've that is the character I've ever written that I've learned the most from, just trying to figure out how Jane would deal with a situation and why. Because we do try to make sure that we have like, we want her, we want everything to make sense, so I try to think about all the actions she takes all the time. um and she's taught me a lot. I think I think differently about people after I started writing Jane, which is a quite amazing thing. But Runa is really fun to write. Like she's my first instinct. I would, if I had the courage to, I would do whatever Runa does. That would be me.
How do you balance basically writing two genres? It's basically that's the thing that strikes me about the book is it both feels like two different books, but it also feels like one book. So it feels like two different genres for two very different artists, Mattia de Ulis and Erica Durso, both of whom are amazing.
Well, I mean, to me, it kind of it's just whatever the story requires. But because the artists are so different, it will naturally feel quite differently. And with Mattia, when you're writing for him, you kind of you want the huge. You want to have a few moments that are really just cinematic and fantastic because he does it so well. But then again, he does everything well. He's so great. There's I think it's in 3, the moment where more like it's pouring water over their
Yeah.
face, and it's just like, how how do you do that in the tiny amount of time you're allotted for every page? I don't know. But one of the things that I love about Erica is the just the tiny little expressions that she managed to add into every face. So I find myself kind of wanting to have a little more cleverness in the people that she draws, because she does it so well.
Yeah.
But we needed Runa to kind of she needed to go out and explore and regain something and kind of get um get something out of her system in a way. And we needed Jane to be back in her life and kind of figuring that shit out. So it was a requirement for the story to end up like this. And we obviously will bring them together, and I hope it works. I love this book so much, and every issue I'm just like I feel like it works. So I hope everyone else does so too.
I feel like we're talking about how Runa is more rough around the edges and a little angrier. So I feel like at this point in time, it's appropriate. The artists for them are appropriate. Like I feel like Mattia's art, as amazing as it is, would look a little too nice on Runa.
Well, I mean, he did design her. He was the one who designed Runa from the ground up, and he is doing the entire 5th issue. That is all Mattia.
Oh,
So, and it looks spectacular. I haven't seen it all yet because he's still drawing. Because I mean, it's a big one, but it's a great one.
is there a
I'm just
narrative reason that he's doing the whole fifth issue? They
yeah.
get together, don't they?
Well, I'm not going to say. I think what I can say is Runa is just fucks off and she has tea somewhere, and then Jane she needs a nap. So that's basically the issue. It's a lot
People
of rest.
people can have nap with tea with
Yeah, I
with
think there
tea.
should be more naps in comics in general.
I, you
More napping.
you're talking about Mattia doing the epic stuff really well, but one of the sequences that really stuck out to me is Jane and Loki, not Loki, in that bar, and just the facial expressions and everything. It looked like he was pulling from actual photographs and films and stuff.
I don't know how he did that. And
Yeah.
the funny thing about that scene is that I wrote something ridiculous in the outline. I wrote something like, well, they meet and it's a great conversation and it's flirty and fantastic and blah blah blah. And then I was supposed to write it. I was like, oh fuck, I need to write them being brilliant and funny and flirty now. Um, and then I was gonna just like, if Mattia does it well, it'll work. And I really thought it worked. I've gotten a lot of comments about that scene in particular. Um, just because the expressions are just so on point all the time. He's so good.
You know what else is really good about that scene? All the puns on the menu. How'd you come up with all of that?
Oh my god. The thing is, I'm not a huge fan of puns, but when they need to be there, we need to work really hard to make them there. And the thing about um I had this idea for the story. This story began in oh god, an Arby's, I think, because I made Jason take me to Arby's.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the next arc,
Your
and I
favorite
had a
American fast food chain, if I remember
no.
it.
It's the one the first time I was first and only time I was there.
Okay.
So I and it was, I would say, mediocre minus. Um, but at least it was a lot of meat.
Yeah.
And I suppose that is what you expect when you go to Arby's. But I do make Jason do a bunch of things with me. Like I made him take me to Walmart at some point, and he bought me a Twinkie because I insisted I wanted a Twinkie. It was horrible.
Of course. I love how you visiting the States is all about you consuming all of these purely American commercialized products.
Yeah, but it's just the things that I've heard about
Yeah.
from movies and TV, and I just want to experience them. And when we did I tell you about this? I can't remember if I told you this story because it was so great for me. When you
Yeah.
go to Walmart and I got out of the car, and the first thing I hear, it wasn't directed at me, it was directed at someone else. It was someone's having an argument in the parking lot. So I opened the car door and someone went, "Oh, fuck you too!" And I was like, yes, this is what I want from Walmart. I want people arguing, and I want a Twinkie. So I got that. It was fantastic. But anyway, I was talking about something else.
The
Oh yeah,
puns, the puns.
the puns. Uh, we were. I kind of pitched a story, and I had not the entire thing, just things that I wanted to deal with, and I wanted more to be a part of it. So I kind of pitched more to Jason, and then he texted me later. It was like, I what about like a bar for morgue workers? Wouldn't that be something? I was like, yeah, let's. What the fuck is that? And we started just punning back and forth. Um, and so that was he would wake up to me being like, here's 15 drink names that are all bad puns. He's like, are any of these funny? And then we just chose the best ones. I think my favorite is the remains of the day because it just works on so many levels.
Yeah.
um and then I don't know, it was, there was a lot of bad puns, and then we chose the best ones, and hopefully people found them funny.
Yep. They
I mean,
stuck out to me. I loved
excellent.
when you posted it on Instagram too. I'm like, yeah, she knows it
It
was.
was, and I like that people got the open mic night every night.
Yeah.
It's just so bad. It's just horrible. I loved it. It was, and that was a lot of fun.
Um, what? So I noticed that you and Jason are writing the Jane story, co-writing the Jane story, but you are solo writing the Runa story. Is Jason's involvement getting less as time goes on? Like, is the long-term plan for you to do this solo?
Well, I mean, Jason is. I think the point with the Runa story is that when I kind of handed it over to him, it was already so done that I don't think he felt like he should get any credit.
Okay.
Um, I think he should get credit just because he listens to me when I go on, and I take, and he has to read all the scripts, and I don't know, he deserves some credit just for moral support. But that wouldn't, because he didn't add a lot of things to it. He just kind of went, hey, I think this works. I don't think he felt like he should have any credit on that one, which is really sweet of him because he's a sweet, wonderful guy. um and but I would give him credit just because he's always there, which is a nice thing. It's a nice way to kind of start writing for Marvel, to have Jason Aaron be there in the background helping out.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Can you imagine that's the way you start? That's awesome.
I know.
what what is the
I know.
inspiration? What is the inspiration behind more?
Well, the thing about more, I wanted, that started a long time ago. I had this thought about Hati and Skull, uh, who in the mythology is sometimes one wolf, sometimes two. Um, and I had this idea about, like, what would you do in your life if you knew you are the one who is supposed to end it all? Like,
Mhm.
if your purpose in life is the end, then what you do during your life, and how do you deal with life around you. And it more kind of grew out of that. I wanted someone who would kind of look at human life through like a different lens somehow, kind of see the things that we might not see, um, and and have the same kind of duality, or not the same, but have a duality like Jane. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was a very kind of a specific character that I had in mind, and I enjoyed that. And obviously telling Mattia to be like, hey, could you make sure that every panel where we see more, you can't tell, like it's supposed to be a non-binary character. So just I have sometimes I go like make them more masculine, or make them more, if not female, then maybe vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
um but Mattia is just, I don't think you could do that character, or at least introduce that character with many artists, but Mattia is one of them.
Yeah. When I think the other character, and maybe we can get into this a little bit because of the show later, but the other character that when because I glance at comics before I read them, right? I just go through it. The other character who can be kind of like that is Loki. So at first, when I saw more, I was like, "Wait, is that Loki?" Right? Because
Yeah,
long
but
hair and everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I think I mean Loki would definitely, and that is speaking also both from the Marvel character and from the mythology. Like that would be a natural thing for Loki.
yeah.
I love Loki. I think we should have more Loki in general. More Loki comics, please.
And did you like writing Loki?
Oh, it's one of my favorite things. I think I think that is one of the things that I would have the most fun with. If we could just do like a Loki story at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I love that the way he tries to trick Jane is to turn into a dude who looks just like Thor.
Yep.
That was so funny.
I thought that was fun too, and I thought it was fun that Jane immediately understood, or not immediately, but she got it, and then she kind of saw the ridiculousness of it all. I liked that, and I'm happy that people seem to enjoy that part of it, because I thought it was so funny,
Yeah.
and his godlike insufferableness, because he is rather insufferable.
Yeah, usually when I see something like that, like, how did you know? Oh yeah, because you're insufferable. Like, usually when I see something like that, I'm like, no, you got to give me a better reason how she figured it out. But I'm like, considering these two characters, I believe it.
Well, what I'm hoping that if you know that it is Loki, then you can go back and look at the conversation, and you'll be like, yeah, of course it's Loki.
Of course.
I did add some hints in there that I think would give it away. But I'm happy to hear that it was a surprise for a lot of people, so that's good. Who didn't just flip through the comic first, like you?
That's what I do. I know not everyone does it. How do you I one of the things that I found interesting is how you handle continuity, because Hela at the end of Jason's run was ruling hell with Carnilla, and then she showed up in Guardians of the Galaxy. She got thrown into a black hole, and you both take that you take that story point and then you use it because Hell has been gone for a while, so Carnilla can do her own thing. But the way you also solve that story point, how she gets out of the black hole, is you simply say she's been in a black hole and now she's back.
Well, it's Hela. She can claw her way out of the black hole. Um, I think I had something. We had to change a little bit, because I wrote this before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been some changes here and there. But I mean, it's Hela. Of course, she can get her way out of the black hole, and I'm not going to say anything more about that specifically, because it'll reappear at some point.
Okay, okay. We do also find out that Hela is the one who hired Craven the Hunter. Um, can you hinted at Craven the last time we talked, but How fun is Craven the Hunter to write?
I mean, how great is Craven the Hunter? I mean, and I keep talking about him, and I sometimes think about like if you can't have a male comic book writer being like talking about the body of
Mhm.
some female characters. I should stop talking about his nipples and his general presence. But he's just
It's his
such a
own fault.
perfect. Yeah, I mean he's asking for it. No, that was a
Bloom.
joke. But I'm just saying he is like it is the perfect thing with the lion eyes nipples and the mane and the mustache. And I think if you removed one of the things, that he might be like passable for something. But it's just a combination of everything. It's just such a perfect creature of like it fucks with my head in a way that I can't really describe. I can't stop talking about him. Is the point? And I love writing him. I could write Craven forever. I think he should have his own book, just hunting the universe with Craven the Hunter, being a little emotional and a little Russian. It would be great.
By all means, I would read that book. Craven the Hunter, Mr. Horse has made a comment about Craven the Hunter's lion nipples, but will we see a return of his lion nipple lasers?
Oh God. I'm gonna just go ahead and say no, no. That I mean, I like to keep my Craven. Um, I enjoy the fact that it is a little. I mean, he obviously has a rifle,
Yeah.
but I like Craven best when he's got like a spear. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is the best Craven, as untechy as possible.
Gotcha. What is Carnilla up to?
I can't tell you.
I knew you
That would
wouldn't
be
answer that question.
no. That would be. I mean, I really want to tell you because I want to talk about this story all the time, but I really shouldn't. I think. Um, she's also one of those characters that I was almost surprised at how much I enjoy writing her. She's great,
She's fun. Yeah.
and Carnilla and Hella, and it's a strange thing, the two of them. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I've always found Carnilla fascinating or fun to read because Balder is basically like the most straight-laced good guy possible, and they have the worst relationship, and it's so fun to read about because
I
they're clearly so into each other and so bad for each other.
I like that everyone who names their children Balder in Norway, they always turn into the perfect Balder, as you would say,
Balder,
as
okay.
well. Just beautiful Nordic men with great morals, few weaknesses.
They don't want to dishonor their namesake.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
Interesting. I would like to see what Carnilla is up to. Um, I want to point out that twice now, Runa has said something about how something cannot possibly be a dream or a fantasy because the smell would not exist. Well, it's not Runa, it's Runa and the Oracle.
no, it is just
Yeah.
just bringing the smell into a comic book is one of those things that will make it more real somehow. If you can
Yeah.
imagine that there is a smell, just like if you can describe the sound somehow, or just add something to the atmosphere of what the character is going through. Um, Also, it is one of those things that I when I do write things, I goes into the character and I imagine everything and I try to get it in onto the page.
I just think it's I just think it's interesting that you know even the Oracle has all of these senses going into the future, but can never know what anything smells like. So I just think it's an interesting limitation of imagination and dreams and that kind of thing that's kind of been established.
I think the line you're referring to there is when he leaves the temple
Yeah.
and for the first time in centuries, and then because he was brought there um, to serve the kings of the old kind of the planet for centuries ago. and then he's been stuck in the temple for centuries, so he hasn't been outside. He hasn't seen
Yeah.
the effects of the nuclear war that I'm kind of hinting at very subtly. And that is one of those things that when I read about people who's experienced radiation, they talk about the kind of the taste and the smell of it. That is, I always find it really fascinating how people try to explain something that is quite foreign to them, but it's still present in
Mm.
a very particular way. Um, so I wanted to get that in there somehow, just because it would have the dying world would have a certain taste, I
Yeah.
suppose. The
It
air would taste something.
yeah, and it's interesting in a visual medium, or actually any medium. I guess no medium has actual smell. Um, I,
Just let's hope we just never get there. I don't want to be in a cinema and have someone be like, yeah, we're gonna make sure you get like whatever chemical version we can have of like flowers. Don't.
that sounds so bad. If
Yeah.
you, I wanted to go through some of the lines that you've written because I think it's been what do you call it? You know, there's some people on the there's some people who read comics and feel like comics should not reflect modern society or whatever it is. But you know, you've written some lines that I think I don't know if you intended it or anything, but just with the context of the times, it it just resonates. So like in Mighty Valkyries number 2, Moore says, if you close down Manhattan, everyone had everything they needed, but no one could leave. Would they feel trapped? And that feels like a real thing that resonates, you know, in considering the last year. Um, where a line like that come from?
Well, it's something that I've thought about all my life to a certain extent. Just what I would consider a prison, I suppose. Like how much space would you need to not feel imprisoned? Is it about the knowledge that you can leave, or is it about the restrictions? Because there is obviously a physical restriction. Unless we can go to the or to space, there is a physical restriction to how far you can go. So it's just something that I've thought about for a long time, and it was a happy coincidence that everyone just got stuck in their homes for a year. I
Yeah.
didn't plan that one, uh, but the idea of it, just how like how large would you have to make a prison for it not to feel like one?
Yeah. Okay. The other line that really stuck out, and I think this one kind of made its way around the internet, is Danny Moonstar saying, it's the privilege of the strong to be ignorant and hard of hearing, and as he won't listen to either our reasoning or our screams, what can we do but fight? So I think that one resonated quite a bit with, you know, a lot of readers.
I'm well, I'm happy to hear that. I suppose that is my I don't know how to deal with the world these days. Like these days, the last 5 years, I don't know how to deal with the people who feel so comfortable sharing whatever idiotic privileged opinion they have about everything all the time. um and I think there is some truth in that line. It's I think it's a line that is more like it needs to be said by Danny Moonstar and not me, obviously, because I'm also extremely privileged, um and all I can do is at this point just scream with the rest of them, the rest of us. Just I don't know.
Yeah. It
It is a frustrating world right now. It is frustrating to from everything, like from my people that I like and that I know that are sharing like memes about how masks uh, doesn't work, that are shared from Facebook pages that kind of goes, well, you know, COVID was made by the like it is that the lack of research and the ease of sharing, it's just I'm going insane is what I'm saying. I can't take it anymore. I had to have like a few weeks almost off social media now because it is so frustrating to um to have people kind of misunderstand just what politics is. It's just
Hmm.
climate change isn't political. That
Yeah.
is the thing that's happening. You can't just be like, well, that it's keep politics out of blah blah blah. No, no, no. Climate change is happening. We can choose to not deal with it and just see the world burn. That's fine, or it's not fine, but that's politics.
Yeah.
But the fact that it is happening, there's no discussion there. And it is the same thing with like systemic racism. Yeah, that's a thing, and how people deal with it, that might be politics, but the thing is there. There's no debate there, and
Yeah.
it's just it drives me nuts that we at some point we just apparently everyone can have an opinion about everything all the time, whoever they are. The earth is flat, and we have to, because you have enough YouTube subscribers, you can just sit there and talk about it forever and ever. I'm going insane.
I understand.
That was a rant. I'm sorry. I'm just saying
I
it's been an
understand.
interesting few years.
Yeah, it's been a really weird few years. I'll tell you a story. I'm on a Facebook group about like old comic strips or something. And then somebody posted something from, that comic strip BC?
Sure.
It's a bunch of cavemen. Um One of them is wearing a mask. And then somebody on it comments with, "I have thankfully never worn a mask." And I
Mm.
just couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it, so I just complained. I commented, and I'm like, "So what you're saying is you're an idiot."
Yeah, you're a fucking idiot.
And normally I'd
You,
stay out of it, but I just couldn't stand it. And then this idiot replies to me with like, "Mind your tongue, peon. I dare say I know more about biology and virology than you ever will." And I'm like, "Who
mm,
talks like
mm,
you?
mm.
Supervillains. That's who talks
Yeah.
like you."
And the thing is, it's always strange when you get because there is noise on the internet all the time. We all know this, but
Hmm.
the second it is kind of in your house, like in the Facebook group that you chose to be in, that's when you kind of have to say something because it can't just be left unchecked somehow. And
Yeah.
then you suddenly find yourself in these discussions with people who want to somehow explain how like particles will go through masks. I don't know. I find it fascinating that people still, a year, more than a year into this pandemic, can wear their masks under their nose,
Yeah.
just proudly being like, "I missed the point. I missed the point. I'm just going to walk around with my nose out
Yeah.
like a moron."
You know what I never understood about that? Like, I don't get it. I'm Asian. When like it is pretty customary when we're sick to just be like, "I don't want to get people sick.
Yeah,
Put on a
it's a
mask."
it's a very nice thing to do.
I don't
I
understand
mean,
it. So
I know, and it is fascinating. I thought about this a lot. Just how uh, I would usually, if I had some kind of a engagement anywhere, a meeting, whatever, as long as I could breathe, I would go. Because that was kind of expected. You can't just stay home sick. But now we obviously have to. Like if you have a fever, you stay the fuck home. And it's been interesting to just how I haven't really thought about how unhealthy it has been before. Where I've been like, well, I got through the meeting. I had almost like a 104 and. And I was basically dying, but I did get through it. It just seems like a very strange thing that I used to do that at some point.
we all did,
Now I stay home.
and as we should.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's why I haven't spoken to anyone in since last time we spoken. Before that, every time I leave the house now it's a fucking disaster. And then and because I don't have any, like I don't talk to anyone in weeks afterwards. I don't have anyone being like, no, 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 you're a person, don't worry. So I leave the house, I say something horribly stupid, I'll go back and be like, oh my god, am I a person? Am I really a grown up human people person? Because it doesn't feel like that anymore.
Lost the ability to socialize.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think I told this, I almost told this story on another podcast, but I'll briefly
Yeah.
explain. Like in January 2021, I left the house once. Um, and as I left, I was getting sleeping pills at the local drugstore, and as I left the store, I heard myself go, "Hey, you know I don't kill cats, right?" And the woman was like, I was like, "Hey, that conversation went great."
Wow.
And then yeah, 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 and I started kind of thinking about like how the fuck did that happen, and I realized because she said, um, "Hey, you keep it out of reach of children." Like the thing that people say when they like I was paying and she was kind of wrapping everything up in a bag, um, and my cat likes she likes to play with the little foil packets the pills come in, and I
Mhm.
break them in half and I leave them in the package, so I'm scared she'll play with it and then it'll fall out and then she'll eat it and then she'll die. That's what I'm worried about. But I don't say any of this. What I say is it's the cat you should be worried about. And I just leave it there. Like that's a joke. That's not a joke. But that's what I say. And with the mask, of course, she doesn't see that it's just my dead eyes and yeah. And I just it got worse from there somehow.
Oh
So when
man.
I left the thing, I was just like, "Oh my god, what am I doing?" And then it's 6 weeks, like alone in the house, being like, Should I talk to people, or should I just stay here forever?" So that might be the solution. Just me buying a house like in the mountains and some chickens and a goat.
Well, Bifrost is near enough to you.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, it's just around the corner.
but I think a lot of us are going through the same thing. So it it's gonna be okay.
Well, I just hope that at some point I can kind of regain some kind of confidence in my own social abilities.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm just like shouldn't shouldn't talk to anyone. I shouldn't do this, but I can't help myself. I like talking to you.
Yes. I like talking as well. Thank you too. So I know some people who are like um who didn't like talking to people at all. So now like the world is opening up and they're like, "Oh man,
Mm.
I don't
Well, I
want to
mean,
meet more people again."
but then you have to. What worries me is that nothing has happened. I have nothing to tell. I can tell you everyone about the 53 different existential crises I've had since last March, but that's no fun. So I have no stories to tell except that one in the drugstore where I sound like a crazy person. So I need to get out there just to experience something so I can, I don't know, tell people things again.
Do the 53 existential crises make their way into your writing?
Oh God, yes. I'll,
So it's good for something.
let's hope so. Uh, let's hope that's true. But I mean, it's been interesting, and I think for me, Mighty Valkyries, there are a lot of things in there that you can kind of see. It's been a perfect book to
I
write
was gonna say.
during the pandemic. I didn't plan it that way, but I'm absolutely sure it's been shaped around not only the kind of the terror of being in a pandemic, but also just frustration that comes from seeing how we as humanity are dealing with it in a way that I feel is, um, I don't know, it's not ideal, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. It's not
Uh,
ideal, and we
it's
could
not
definitely be
ideal.
doing it better.
Yes, and God forbid something worse happens than a pandemic, which is already pretty bad. But I don't trust us after this year to deal with heavier stuff
Mm-hmm.
if they were to, yeah.
So would you say writing the Mighty Valkyries has helped keep you sane?
Oh God, yes, definitely.
See, so
Thank
everybody watching this,
Jane.
writing has therapeutic benefits.
Oh, undoubtedly.
The last line I want to ask you about is from Return of the Valkyries #2, where Runa says, "Mother folklore." How'd you sneak that in?
I don't know. I was expecting that one to be carefully edited out at some point, but it didn't. It wasn't.
That's it.
So I,
That was cool.
yeah, yeah. And but seriously, I thought that was one of those. Oh, it's so bad. It's funny, and I really wanted it to kind of stay there, and it would be such a her thing to say, such a Runa thing. So I'm happy it got it stayed.
Yeah.
And I hope it wasn't just missed by someone being like, "Hey," but they are like I try to get them. There are a lot of things that don't necessarily know that's bad. Obviously know that swearing is bad, but there are some things like you can't smoke.
In
In
a Marvel
like we try to
comic.
keep, yeah, no
Yeah.
smoking, which makes sense, and I shouldn't have characters smoking anyway. But sometimes it does make sense, and I do like a nice cigar from time to time. Um, so I never know quite where the limit is.
Yeah.
And I keep like when I'm writing 40K, I sent Mark an email that basically was like, "Hey, how about some wee bit of cannibalism? Well, how do we feel about that?" And he was like, "Hey, well, let's talk about this cannibalism. Well, maybe."
I know that you're good friends with Garth Ennis, so the mother folklore line reminded me of in Hitman when he would say mother lovers.
Oh, I mean, oh, Hitman is so good. Maybe I should just read Hitman.
Hitman is a pretty good comic.
Oh, it's
Um,
pretty comic.
it's cool. So, but
Yeah.
now that you mentioned Warhammer 40K, Sisters of Battle, how did you come up with that assignment?
Well, I think Kieran knew that I have an affinity for 40K or Warhammer in general, and he was kind of shaping the Marvel Games Workshop kind of the thing, and I know my name kind of got added to a list, and they asked me if I wanted to try to make something up for it, and which I very much like. I loved the Sisters of Battle. I think they're awesome. It's a one full army that I currently own is the Sisters of Battle, which is I had it before I got the assignment, but now it feels almost a little stupid. But they're just so cool. I couldn't help myself. And I think it kind of it speaks to the level of kind of care that Games Workshop put into making the Sisters of Battle, because they in Warhammer there's a bunch of different armies you can play, and I would normally stay away from anything being like, "Hey, you're a woman, so you should play all the women," but they're just so cool. I couldn't
Yeah.
help myself.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, I was actually gonna ask that is, and I know you hate being asked this question, but do you seek to write primarily women, or is that just the way it lands? Because I know
I
some people, like, for example, some minority creators, they pitch for stuff, and then they only get the assignments for minority characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I I think that the still thing is that I think that I would write the. I think I've said this before too, like the grumpy old guy. I
yeah,
think that would be that is what I excel at. I do love writing women, but I would also really very much like to write anything, anyone that is just if they're interesting enough. I don't want especially something as stupid as gender to kind of hold me back, but I'm not sure how much it would influence a publisher. Like I know they do try to get women to write women, because that has been a criticism they've gotten in the past, that they have a bunch of white males writing all their female characters. So I suppose it makes sense that it is easier to um to write for like women. And for Sisters of Battle, I know that I'm extremely happy that I'm extremely happy that I'm writing it. I think it could go wrong in many ways. Um, uh, because it is, I'm not sure how much you know about 40k or the Sisters of Battle, but they are like, I think the punchline is like nuns with flamethrowers,
There
but
we go.
they're yeah, that, which is true, but there's a lot more to them. And there is a certain, like the 40k community will, there's a lot of people who find them, they want them to be more beautiful or want them to be more like, there's a whole thread somewhere about like what happens if the Sisters of Battle get pregnant, which they probably wouldn't, given that they're married to they're not married, but you know what I mean, like
They're married to their jobs.
their god, the emperor, like that's all they
Yeah.
care about. um and I like that I can kind of, because I love them so much, I am happy to be able to write them in a way that I think they should be presented, which is just extremely competent, badass, and without going into like making one of them a little weaker, just to kind of make her more vulnerable and more interesting for the male audience.
Oh, come
Which,
on,
like,
guys.
I don't know. I'm not sure if maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the men who really loves the Battle Sisters just want to have like their balls crushed or something. I think that's more probable.
There's probably a mix of people.
Yeah, as with
What's
everything.
it like working with Edgar Salazar?
I mean, he's great. He's so good. And the thing about Warhammer, because it's so, there's so many details. There's just so much stuff. Like, you need to have everything in the right place, and you have to have the rosary go in a certain way, and the colors and everything. And if you add that to uh a lot of action. I mean, it's an action heavy script. And there's a lot of like, I'll be like, hey, can I have like an eyeball flying? Like, it's so violent. It is as violent as I can get away with in many ways. So he needs to make that work in like a Marvel way too. And he just nails it. I don't understand how he can just keep delivering page after page on the level that he does, but just, it works so well. I'm so happy to be working with him.
It-
It's been
it's
great. I feel
so
so lucky about all the artists I've been working with, but it's just he is the perfect one for this specific assignment.
so let me ask you this: as somebody who is yourself, you are an artist. Those paintings behind you are yours,
Mhm.
but who refuses to draw your own comics. What, like, how mind blowing is it getting these pages from all of these artists? Like,
I mean, it is one of the most. It is the best thing about writing comics, is seeing the art come in. I don't think you could do this job if you didn't like seriously love art. Um, and the best feeling is when you kind of, I have like a general idea, but I realize that I wouldn't even be able to attempt it. Like, I wouldn't, but I just write it down anyway and be like, hey, maybe you can do it, and then that they can. And I've had a few moments like that with Edgar, because it's an intricate story. There's a bunch of people involved, because a battle sister squad is a specific set of people, and then I have some other characters added on to the squad. So there's a bunch of characters that needs to be in specific places, and I keep making him silly little maps to explain where they are in the story, and I just send it off and be like, oh god, I would hate to try to draw this, and then it comes back and it just works. So hopefully people will enjoy it.
do
It's
you
there's
ever, yeah,
yeah.
do you ever have a moment where you're like, I would have drawn it differently?
um uh, Not with Edgar. I've had in the past that I've kind of gone, oh yeah, we'll have to rework some things to make this work, especially if I'm really relying on a specific. expression to kind of
Mm,
sell something, and then it doesn't. Or there are some tiny things that I think that I would have kind of like to explain some kind of joke. um I think like if you saw the butterflies in
yeah.
the third issue, I'm just hoping that people would see that it's supposed to be a tiny god trying to make a butterfly, and Carnelia being like, "Yeah, is it?
Yeah,
Is it
kind
a,
of is.
oh yeah, it's sort of a butterfly." Um, and I've pictured that with more focus on the thing. And then I saw the page, and it still works because it's Mattia and it's beautiful, but you have to kind of lean in and take a look and pay attention. And hopefully, if someone pays quite a lot of money for a comic book, they will pay attention. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to my silly jokes that I kind of need to work somehow. That's when uh, that's when I most often get into like, oh, maybe I really wanted. Well, I can't use this example because it's in the next one, but there's a really funny scene with some really fun characters, and it really works as it is now too. I've just had to move things around a bit to the make it as funny as I want it to be.
Without spoiling anything and without saying anything that you can't say, what can fans look forward to for the Mighty Valkyries moving forward?
The finale. I don't know what I want to say
It
about it.
doesn't
It
end at
is
issue 5, does it? Well,
well, we don't know technically yet
okay.
if we're gonna continue. It's been I know they've been, or well, that's my interpretation of how they've been dealing with kind of pandemic books. Now they're kind of taking it, just seeing how, feeling out the market, feeling out how everything works, because sales, I think it's been quite good. But I know a lot of the plans that they had were kind of like just taking it slow and try to figure out how to deal with the market now that everything, like, people are still buying comics and loads of them, but there's been such dramatic changes to both the distributors and the all the shops that have been kept closed for such a long time. So I everyone's taking it slow. That's kind of my impression of how it works right now.
Okay. So the finale is what we got to look forward to. Jane Foster fans are very dedicated. I don't think you'll be.
They are the best fans. They deserve Jane Foster in some kind of form. So I do really hope we can keep writing in one way or another. I will do my utmost to make sure, but then again, it's not up to me.
Are are you
But I
looking
will.
forward to Thor: Love and Thunder?
I mean, very much so. I think. Oh, I can't fucking wait.
Mhm.
And it is all the little hints that has been dropped so far. It just sounds like it's going to be a good time.
There hasn't even been any leaked photos of Natalie Portman. I'm like, where are they going with this? Ugh.
I like that. I
Yeah.
would prefer not to know anything. I find it fascinating how like sensible, nice, good people that I know keep spoiling Loki every fucking Wednesday. Just it just amazes me how people can not understand that some of us just likes to watch the thing without knowing too much. But I think that if there was a picture of Natalie, I would like to see it, please.
Are you enjoying Loki?
I am a lot,
Yeah.
really. Yeah, I'm enjoying Loki. It's one of those. It feels a little British to me. Like I think you know how Doctor Who just is extremely British, and you kind of have to be like, oh, are we watching a play or are we watching a TV show? What's happening? Please, if you're a Doctor Who fan, don't come at me for this. I love Doctor Who. I'm just saying it feels Britishy,
Yeah.
and Loki has like a small, like a spice of the Brits, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I love the design, and I love I think the characters works. And I think Sylvie is brilliant.
Who do you think the big bad is?
I don't know. well, I mean, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
speculate when it comes to
You're
that
not
kind
gonna
of shit.
speculate.
I just enjoy watching the thing. But I do realize that a bunch of people spend a lot of time uh
Oh my God, yeah.
trying to figure out whatever. But like with Wonder Vision as well, I just wanted to watch the thing. I don't need to talk about it.
No, from WandaVision onwards, I swear, like people, there's a dude on YouTube who's like, I watched WandaVision in 0.2 times the speed, and this is
What?
what I noticed, and I'm like, what?
What?
Why?
You need to chill the fuck out and watch other things too. I don't know if you. I mean, you do you, strange
Yeah.
YouTube man. And do you whatever you want, whatever gives you happiness. But I just feel like when things are, I just want to enjoy an enjoyable uh, show that I think will give me something, and I would prefer not to have it spoiled. And I do actually prefer not to have too many ideas about what will happen because I don't want to. Um, I don't see the need to kind of disappoint myself and be like, hey, I got that wrong. So I never speculate. I
Yeah.
just enjoy the thing.
Yeah, I think that was a problem a lot of people had with WandaVision because people were all saying like, "Oh, it was disappointing because they did this, this, this," and I'm like, "That's on you. That has
Yeah,
nothing to do with the show."
no. Show was absolutely what it needed to be. It was very much fun, great, all the things. Um, but even I got like when you had, and I get that it was like the perfect storm of people being home, people being hungry for content, and just so many like specials about Wonder Vision and what will happen, and if you have to. Just try to figure it out. Obviously, people will, and obviously there will be disappointment. Um, I have enough stories in my life that I very much prefer to just have someone tell me one instead of trying to make one up between the episodes.
But isn't that crazy though? Because you were talking earlier about how you writing the Mighty Valkyries, you didn't really expect, you didn't expect COVID, you didn't expect the lockdowns and everything. With WandaVision, they made it before most of it before the pandemic, and then it was about dealing with the aftermath of this of the blip, and it was about grief, and I'm like, what a coincidentally perfect show for
Yeah, when
2021.
yeah, and it was unexpected, which I think people really wanted at the time when everyone's just sitting at home watching TV. It's nice to have something that isn't exactly what they thought it would be. Um, but it is like with King in Black when you wrote that as well. At some point, Will Moss was like, "Hey, this is really resonating to me right now." And I'm like, yeah, I know being stuck in your own head and your own just repeating your own things all over and over again. Um, it, it is obviously if you see things through the lens of a pandemic, you'll be able to kind of do that with everything. But obviously it shapes your kind of frame of mind when you're writing or doing something during
During
this
all of
year.
this, yeah.
It feels like I've booked my tickets to New York in October, which makes me feel like I'm more of an optimist that I've previously given myself credit for. I feel like this is a new side of me, this optimistic, positive person who might or might not be in New York in October. Probably not.
For New York Comic Con.
Well, at least for New York during New York Comic Con.
Okay, I understand that. I
I
understand that.
might not go to the con and hug a bunch of people, but I do like all a bunch of my friends are coming into to the city, so it would be nice to be there. But as I said, right now I don't think I would be allowed to enter the land of the free. So we'll see how it looks in 2.5 months
That's how
of
you know you're a writer. You just said something like really ironic right there. I don't think I would be allowed to enter the land of the free.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
right now I just want to I miss America a lot. I find it it's an inspiring place in a lot of ways. With all its faults, I love America, and I find that right now I'm going to my cabin in Sweden
Uh-huh.
for a few weeks, and there will be no people and a bunch of moose. I have
Cool.
like a trail cam on the cabin, so I can see who visits there when I'm not there, and just like foxes and everything. And so much of my time is spent in like isolation in Scandinavia. From time to time, it's really nice to experience other places. Right
It
now,
was.
I really want to experience other places.
I feel you. I've been stuck in my condo for like the last year and a half. But I know you gotta go. Like I would love to keep talking to you, but I know you got a meeting in 8 minutes. So
Oh
we
God,
should
yes.
wrap this up. When is a Warhammer 40K coming out?
I want to say probably the 18th of August or the 28th. I don't remember. It's in August. You should pick it up. It is bonkers, but it is a lot of fun. So and it is as cannibalistic as I could make it. I don't.
And the Mighty Valkyries. The finale will be double
We just
sized. Is it?
push. No, it's just it's a big issue in it's a it's a hard issue to
Okay.
draw, I suppose. But it'll be out in, I think it's in September now,
Yeah.
because we had to push it a little bit. I
Yeah,
don't
because
remember the exact
4 is out
date.
at the end of July. So
Yeah, but I think we're kind of we pushed it like a couple of weeks. So I think it's in September. Um, and I hope everyone is enjoying and following along, because it is a book that I think the entire team has a lot of love for, and I hope that I kind of shows
it,
in the book.
it really
I
does.
adore this book. It's one of the like it's one of the things that I'm most proud of that I've ever done. So I do hope that people are enjoying it.
Last question before we go. Name a Marvel character that you want to write. Just say, put it out there.
Oh, it's gonna be. I think I've said this before too. Like Punisher is just on the top of my list.
Mhm.
People seem to be stumped by that all the time. I love the Punisher, and and, and there's a bunch of Asgardians. Do you want to know all of them?
Sure.
I mean, because there is like Thor is obviously, that would be great, but I do find that like I would like to write the next Journey into Mystery. That would be fantastic. I think that would be my that would be one of the things that I would enjoy a lot to do. And like maybe I think what they are doing at the X office now is so cool that I wouldn't, like, none of my kind of X-Men fantasies would work in their little thing, but it's just so cool what they're doing. Uh, so I right now I would just be like, hey, could you just keep writing, because I want to know what's going to happen. So, and not necessarily get my fingers into it, but there are a bunch of X-Men that I would love to. There's I just want to write. That's at this point. That's kind of what I've spent the last year figuring out, that as long as I can write something, the world makes sense to me. Just when I'm not, or when I'm looking at social media, it just kind of falls to pieces again.
So, since you're talking about the X-Men and Thor and you're writing the Mighty Valkyries, can we expect a certain Danny Moonstar to show up?
Depends on how, if you can keep writing.
Yeah.
Daddy Moonstar is seriously one of my favorite. Like, I just the taste of her. I just, that sounds creepy. I didn't mean that creepy.
You mean
But
as
she's fantastic.
yeah, as a character, yeah.
Yeah, I think she's a fantastic character, and I think she should have her own fucking book, because she's just so interesting,
She
and there's
is.
so many things and so many stories you can tell, and I'm so happy I got to kind of just now everything I say sounds creepy. I was gonna say explore her a little bit. That sounds horrible. I'm extremely happy I got to write a little piece of Danny Moonstar, and I do hope that I get to do so again. Definitely.
Thank you, Torunn Grønbekk. I'm really happy you got back on the show. And have fun in Sweden.
Thank you so much. It's always lovely to talk to you. I'll happily come back and shout about things again, as apparently I've done this hour. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's good. It's good stuff. Sometimes it's therapeutic to shout about
Yeah,
things.
shout about the world.
Thank you.